I want you to try a little mental experiment with me.
Okay.
Imagine for a second that you're a sculptor. You're in your studio, you've got your tools, but instead of a block of marble, your material is a finished object.
It's like a finished song.
Exactly. A hit record, it's perfect. It's got a soaring melody, clear lyrics, catchy chorus. It's done.
Most people would say, don't touch it.
Right. But you take a chisel to it, you chip away the singer's voice, you smash the melody, you strip it all down until all that's left is the skeleton, the drum, and the bass. And then, and this is the key, you start carving into the empty space.
You manipulate the silence.
You treat the lack of sound as the art itself.
That is a very evocative way to put it. You're describing a process of subtraction, not addition.
And that subtraction is the topic of today's deep dive. We're talking about dub.
Mm-hmm.
We're working from a really fascinating column, Dub Music's Birth and Expanding Universe by MMR from November 2025. And the argument here is huge. It's saying dub isn't just, a subgenre of reggae with loud bass.
No, it's way more than that.
It claims dub is a radical shift in philosophy that basically redefined the entire concept of music production.
It really is. The core thesis in the source is that dub changed the role of the person sitting behind the mixing desk. Before dub, an engineer was, well, they were a documentarian.
Right.
You're there to capture a performance, make sure the levels are good, and just don't get in the way.
Like a photographer taking a portrait.
Exactly. But after dub, the engineer became the artist. The mixing desk, that became the instrument. It's a move from documentation to creation.
And the source suggests this shift influenced everything. I mean, from hip-hop and techno.
All the way to the AI music generation tools we're seeing right now in 2026.
Yeah. That is a massive lineage. We're talking about a family tree that starts on a street corner in Jamaica and ends up in the algorithms of generative AI.
It's an incredible story.
So let's unpack this. We need to go back to the source. Take us to Kingston, Jamaica. But we're not starting in the 70s yet, are we? We're going a bit earlier.
Right. We have to set the scene. Late 1950s, early 60s. The source paints this picture of Kingston where the radio wasn't really the center of musical life.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, the radio played American R&B, maybe some jazz, but it didn't represent the street. The real action was with the sound systems.
I think for a lot of people, sound system just sounds like a stereo.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're talking about here, is it?
Not at all. Not even close. These were massive mobile DJ rigs. Think huge walls of custom-built speakers, amplifiers that could shake a city block, all loaded onto trucks, and it was intensely competitive.
A musical arms race.
It absolutely was. You had sound crews, teams of DJs, engineers, enforcers, all battling for supremacy. They needed the loudest bass, the clearest highs.
And exclusive tracks, I'm guessing.
Crucially, you couldn't just play the same records as the guy down the street. You needed something unique, and that drive led to an invention that changed everything.
The version.
The B-side. Now, explain this, because usually a B-side is just the song that wasn't good enough to be a hit. Well, in this context, it was about economics and utility. Studios started pressing records where the A side was the pop song, the vocal track. But on the B side, they just stripped the vocals out.
Leaving just the instrumental.
Exactly, just the instrumental. And originally, this wasn't an artistic statement. It was a version for the DJs to use.
So they could talk over it.
Precisely. The DJs, or selectors, would use these to toast.
Right.
Toasting is chanting, chatting rhythmically over the beat. You hype up the crowd, give shout-outs, maybe diss the rival sound system.
And here's where the source makes a really big claim. It identifies this toasting as the prototype for rap in hip-hop culture.
It's hard to argue against it. I mean, decades before the Bronx block parties, the blueprint was being drawn right there in Kingston dance halls.
You have a stripped-down beat.
And a guy on a microphone flowing over it. That's the archetype.
So without the Jamaican version, we might not have rap as we know it. But the source says something changed in how the engineers saw these tracks.
Right. They didn't just see them as backing tracks for long.
And this is the pivotal moment.
It is. The engineers realized these B-sides weren't just the song without the singer. They were a sound experiment field. By removing the main vocals, they opened up this landscape where they could mess around with the drums and bass without, ruining the hit song.
They were hacking the music.
Exactly. And there's one man who really turned the key to unlock this door. He's the first pillar of our story.
King Tubby.
The alchemist himself.
So, introduces to King Tubby. The source mentions his real name, Osborne Reddick. But what's interesting is he wasn't a musician in the traditional sense. He didn't play guitar or drums, did he?
No, and that's a crucial detail. He was an electrical engineer, he fixed radios, he wound transformers, so when he looked at a mixing console, he didn't just see volume knobs.
He saw a circuit diagram.
He saw a circuit diagram. He understood the machine from the inside out. He actually built a lot of his own equipment, or he'd modify standard gear to do things it just wasn't supposed to do.
So he's approaching music like a scientist.
A scientist who decided to perform. He developed a technique of playing the mixing desk live. He'd have the multi-track tape running.
Drums here, bass there.
Horns there, yeah. And he's standing at the board just slamming faders up and down.
This isn't like modern automation where you draw a line on a screen.
No, this is physical. He'd drop the guitar out completely, then bring the bass up until the speakers were rattling.
Wow.
Then he'd punch in a vocal snippet, just a syllable, and send it through a filter and just drown it in reverb.
I love that quote the source attributes to him. He said, "I make space in the song." That's where the soul resonates.
It's a beautiful philosophy, isn't it? He wasn't adding new instruments. He was taking things away to create space. The source describes his music as being about time stretching.
Right.
He manipulated the silence between the echoes.
It creates that specific physical sensation when you listen to dub. You know, the drum hits crack, and then there's this trailing echo that seems to degrade and dissolve, and then suddenly the bass drops back in. It feels like the room is getting bigger and smaller at the same time.
That's the live dub mix. It's improvisation. No two mixes were ever exactly the same because he was reacting in real time. He turned the studio into a stage.
And he didn't keep these secrets to himself.
No, he had protégés. The source mentions Prince Jammy, who became King Jammy, and scientist Errol Thompson. They all carried this torch.
But if King Tubby was the scientist in the lab, you know, precise and electrical, there was another figure, someone more like a sorcerer.
Lee Scratch Perry.
The counterpoint. The source calls Tubby the precision laboratory.
And Perry, the magic experiment.
A perfect comparison.
It is. Perry operated out of his own studio, the Black Ark. And if Tubby's place was an engineering workshop, the Black Ark was a mystical shrine. It was described as chaotic, primal.
The methods the source describes are legendary. I mean, he wasn't just using reverb. He was blowing marijuana smoke into the microphones.
He was burying tapes in his garden.
He was what?
Yeah, burying tapes in the garden. He wanted to see how the earth would affect the sound.
That is wild. It sounds like performance art.
It was. He recorded what he called immediate screams. Perry believed there were spirits living in the machines. He famously said, "The spirits are in the equipment. I just listen to their voices and mix them."
So he saw his role as placing sound between the natural and the supernatural.
That's it. That's the vibe. And you can hear it in the music. It's not clean. The source points to the album Super 8 by the Upsetters from 1976.
Masterpiece.
Absolutely. The source describes it as a sound jungle. It's dense. It's this fog of heavy bass and reverb. It doesn't sound technically correct, not like a pop record. It sounds alive, swampy, mysterious. It's a world you step inside.
But sadly, the Black Ark, it didn't last.
No, it burned down in 1979. There's so many stories about how that happened. Some say Perry burned it down himself to cleanse it of bad spirits.
Wow.
But in a way, the destruction of the Black Ark was the moment the virus of dub escaped.
Meaning it couldn't be contained in Jamaica anymore.
Exactly. It spread across the ocean. Which brings us to the next phase the source covers, the diaspora. Dub goes to the UK.
Okay, this is the late 70s, but help me connect the dots here. You have Jamaican immigrants moving to London, Bristol, Birmingham. They bring the sound system culture with them. But why did it catch on with, white British kids, specifically the punks?
That is the fascinating collision. You have to look at the socioeconomic context. The UK in the late 70s was grim.
Right.
Unemployment, social unrest, racism. The punk movement was angry, anti-establishment, raw. And then they hear dub.
Which is also rebellious.
Totally. Dub didn't care about musical rules. It was heavy, physical, and it was all about subverting the correct way to make a record. The punks and the post-punk bands saw a kindred spirit in what Lee Perry and King Tubby were doing.
So it's a shared attitude.
The shared alienation. And this led to UK dub. The source highlights Adrian Sherwood and his label On You Sound.
He is a pivotal figure.
Huge. Because he took Perry's chaos and Tubby's precision and applied it to this industrial, abstract sound. Bands like African Head Charge, New Age Steppers. It was colder, more metallic, but still deeply rooted in dub.
It's almost like dub adapted to the weather. Jamaican dub feels hot and humid. UK dub feels a bit grayer, concrete. Industrial.
That's a great observation. And we can't forget the Mad Professor.
Great name.
The best. His studio was Ariwa. He created the Dub Me Crazy series. The source describes his work as a sonic adventure moving between technology and fantasy. He really pushed the technological limits of what the mixing desk could do in the 80s, moving toward a more digital sound.
So we have the roots in Jamaica, the industrial evolution in the UK.
Yeah.
But then we hit the 90s. And the source argues that dub's DNA basically infiltrated everything.
It did. The dub methodology broke free from reggae entirely. It just became a way of treating sound in any genre. And the most significant shift happened in Berlin.
Berlin in the 90s. We're talking techno.
Yes. The source focuses on a duo called Basic Channel Moritz von Oswald and Mark Ernestus. They invented what we now call dub techno.
How does the source describe their sound? Is it just techno with a lot of echo?
It's much deeper than that. They treated rhythm particles with spatial processing.
Rhythm particles?
Yeah, imagine a kick drum, but instead of just a thud, it has this static, hissing texture that echoes out into this vast, cavernous space. It's hypnotic. They took the space concept from King Tubby and applied it to the repetitive machine funk of techno.
So it's less about melody and more about the texture of the sound itself.
Precisely. And this influence just kept expanding. You have ambient music, The Orb, Bill Laswell exploring dub space without the heavy beats. They were making chill-out rooms feel like outer space using dub delays.
And then we get to the digital age, the 2000s.
Yeah.
Dubstep, obviously.
Right. Coda 9 and the evolution of bass music. But there is one artist the source singles out that I find really compelling, Burial.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically, his 2007 album, Untrue.
I remember that album came out. It sounded like nothing else.
The source calls it post-digital lonely dub.
Lonely dub. That hits hard. Why lonely?
Well, think about the progression. Sound system culture in Kingston was communal. It was a block party.
Right.
But Burial's music, that's music for headphones. It's music for walking home alone in the rain.
It feels isolated.
He applied dub techniques, pitch-shifting vocals, crackle, heavy sub-bass, to the isolation of modern city life. It's the sound of the digital era where we are all connected but somehow feel alone.
It's fascinating how a technique invented to hype up a crowd in a hot Kingston dance hall evolved into the soundtrack for urban isolation in London.
That really speaks to the flexibility of the philosophy, which brings us right to the core concept the source wants us to understand. Section 6, the philosophy of subtraction.
Okay, let's get philosophical. We've talked about the history, but what is the dub methodology at its heart?
It's about creating new space by shaving off sound. It's an aesthetics of lack or absence.
Usually when we think of producing something, music, writing, film, we think about adding things, adding layers, adding words, adding scenes.
Right. Dub says, no. Dub says the creativity lies in what you remove. By taking away the main attraction, the singer, you force the listener to pay attention to the background, to the texture, to the rhythm. You redefine what the original even is.
And the source connects this to the 21st century in a very direct way.
Yes, to AI music generation and remix culture, the idea of editing, reconfiguring, and regenerating existing material. I mean, that's now the root of modern creativity.
It is.
Think about it. When you use an AI tool, you often aren't playing an instrument. You are prompting, editing, selecting, regenerating. You are acting as the selector and the engineer.
You're sculpting.
You are sculpting. Dub defined music not as a fixed performance, but as a device for reconstructing time and space. In a way, we are all living in a dub world now.
How so?
Every time a kid on TikTok speeds them a song and adds reverb, they are knowingly or not channeling King Tubby.
That is a massive connection.
Yeah.
It really recontextualizes the TikTok era. It's not just short attention spans. It's a continuation of this version culture.
Exactly. The source defines dub as fluid. It's never finished. A song is never done. It's just raw material for the next version.
So what does this all mean for us? We've traced this line from the sound systems to the smartphone.
I think it changes how we listen. When you realize that the empty space in a track is just as intentional as the loud parts, you start hearing the world differently. You start listening to the echoes.
It's the appreciation of the negative space.
And the recognition that technology is an instrument. Tubby proved that a fader is as expressive as a violin string if you put your soul into it. Perry proved a tape machine can hold spirits.
And Burial proved that a computer can hold heartbreak.
Beautifully said.
This has been such a journey. From the heat of 1960s Kingston, through the smoke of the Black Ark, into the gray industrial UK, and finally into the digital ether. It's clear that dub isn't just a genre of reggae.
No.
It's the operating system for modern sound.
It really is. The source ends with this beautiful sentiment. All sounds go back somewhere. Dub is about finding meaning in the empty spaces and the echoes.
And that leads us to our final thought for today. We live in a world of constant information noise. Notifications, podcasts, ironically 24-hour news, constant content. It's a wall of sound.
It is. It's overwhelming.
So, taking a page from the dub philosophy, what could you create in your own life if you applied the art of subtraction? If you stop trying to add more and instead hit the mute button on the main vocal track of your day?
Listen to the reverb of your own thoughts.
Exactly. What meaning might you find in the silence that's left behind? Something to think about.
Definitely.
Thank you for diving deep with us today.
A pleasure, as always.
Keep listening to the echoes. We'll see you on the next one.